What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back with Detroit Lions and the Pittsburgh Steelers injury report. Man, it is Thursday, so let's get it started.
Way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, and we're going to stand up, and then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up, and then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
Welcome, everybody, to our video. Glad you guys are here. And yes, we're back for another injury report day. Thursday is usually a pretty exciting day. It's usually a good day. Here's why Thursday is a good day, and you guys know why. Because, of course, we have the second injury report, and the Thursday injury report is usually a pretty big deal. Now, this one's a little bit different, so we'll discuss that as we get into it. But we also have last second dose. It's Thursday, man. What is this, week 10? Holy cow, week 10. The season's going too fast. I can't lie. I know we got 18 weeks this year, and the Lions have only played, they're not even like technically halfway through. This will be like the halfway through transitioning game, which is weird because it's the bye week worked out that way, and it's actually good for us. But it's just crazy how fast season's going. I know we haven't won a game yet, but at the same time, I hate when the season's over because the offseason is so long. It's so long. Who's with me? I mean, in the moment, you're like, oh yeah, let's get to the draft, but it's a very long off season, and it's like football cannot get here soon enough. Kind of hate to hear it, right? I mean, you want to rush to the next game, but at the same time, it's like, you know, the season goes real fast. Just wanted to point that out, man. Enjoy every single game. Enjoy every game, win or lose. Take away the fun of it, take away the good from it, and just enjoy it. Embrace it, because I'm telling you, the season goes fast. There are some words of wisdom. I should have saved that for tonight. You know what? I'm using that for tonight. I'm using that. That's right. If you heard it here and then you hear it on last second dose, I'm sorry, but we got last second dose tonight. All right, so make sure you guys tune in for that. We're going to be talking a little bit about the Steelers game, I'm sure. We're going to be talking about that new receiver. Yes, sir. Hey, hold up. Don't get me hyped because Josh Reynolds might just play this weekend. I don't think he will, though. But anyways, we'll get to that in a second. So it's all around good. I guess let's just dive right into this. Let's dive right into this injury report, man. The Steelers one has changed quite a bit because yesterday they just had a walkthrough and they're on a short week. You know what? Let's start with the Lions today because there's really not a lot of changes to look at here, and that's good and bad. All right, starting off at the very top, man, it's that great news. Now, notice there is no more Jayshon Cornell because, like we said, he's on the NFI list, so he is now on the injury reserve list. I put him at the bottom, listing NFI next to him, non-football illness. We're hoping for a speedy recovery for you. I don't know what he's going through. I don't know what he's dealing with, but you do hate to hear that for anybody. So hopefully he is okay and he gets through that. We're rooting for you, Jayshon. I know I wanted to see this guy on the field, so I was hype when we got him back off of the suspension that he had for the first couple weeks of this season. Man, it's just crazy thinking back to, I remember reporting when he had that suspension. I reported that suspension in Texas. It's crazy how fast it is. I'm sorry. Anyways, Taylor Decker, though, let's start there. He had full participation once again today, and that's fantastic news. Apparently, he had it looked like a little bit of tape on his hands yesterday. So I believe it's his right hand. He's got some tape there, but he had full participation yesterday, but it was the first day of the week, even though it was coming off a bye week, so it was probably a normal practice. Heading into Thursday, the great news here is that it was full again. Full participation again. Tomlin, the Steelers head coach, talked about this a little bit. Basically said, look, I kind of know what the Lions got at that tackle position. All right. He's like, look, Penei Sewell, he was picked where he was for a reason. The pedigree is, it's ridiculous. And then he said for Taylor Decker, captain, and it speaks for himself. Taylor Decker speaks for himself. And Anthony Lynn today called him one of the best tackles in the league. So, yeah, that'll be a huge return. We've talked about it for weeks now. We're pushing months now. We've been discussing this. But the reason this is such a big deal is because if you guys can remember, last time Taylor Decker returned to practice, and then there's that so-called setback, his second day return to practice, I believe it was October 14th, things got worse, right? And that's when we saw the setback, and then we saw him out for a very extended period of time that we didn't think he'd be out that long. Well, back-to-back days of full participation, and that's only good news, all right? So if you slept well last night with your news about Taylor Decker, you should sleep well again tonight. So that's great to hear with Taylor Decker, man. Oh, snap, it sounded like TD gonna play. Anyways, let's continue down, and shout out to Taylor Decker. Shout out to Taylor Decker if he does play. You know, we'll wait. I got to see you out there first. But I do appreciate the fact that he came back for his guys as the leader of this group. Next up, Austin Bryant continues with limited participation here, dealing with a shoulder injury. The Lions definitely have some depth at that outside linebacker position. You see some of these younger guys a little bit more as the season goes on, especially Austin Bryant, Julian Okwara, because there's talent there. The Lions want to figure out who they're going forward with, right? I think Trey Flowers right now, it's kind of like, all right, it's just the contract's too big, right? We've talked about this a lot, but it's Julian, it's Austin Bryant. It's those two guys we were like, okay, who do we go around, who we keep around, right? Julian Okwara is going to be here because of how early he is on his rookie deal. But Austin Bryant's been here for years now, and you kind of have to figure out, are you going to be bringing this guy back? So I think we may be seeing a little bit more of Austin Bryant as we go forward. We know that there is special teams impact. We saw that specifically last season. Remember, he made some huge plays, a couple of blocks there for us. So I think we could see him a little bit more. So we'll keep an eye on that injury for him. And then, of course, Charles Harris. But Harris looks good. He's not on this list. Continuing, Austin Seibert. We talked about him yesterday, the kicker with limited participation once again today. I don't know what that means for a kicker. Limited participation. Do they just do less drills kicking with him? Is that what that is? It's his right hip, and I gotta believe because he's a right-footed kicker, that's probably not good, right? If you're kicking with your right hip and you're like, oh man, that hurts. That can't be good. That cannot be good. But limited participation for a kicker. Not sure what that means exactly, but I'm sure it's not a good thing because I feel like kicking is just all about strictly repetition, just going through it over and over and over. And I just threw my pen. Not that. See, this is bad repetition. I've been throwing my pen many times for months. For years, I've been throwing my pen. So that's not good. Don't practice the wrong way. Practice the right way. Oh, snap. Hey, we getting all the words of wisdom out now. This is not good. Trey Flowers, the outside linebacker dealing with his knee injury. We just discussed him. He's once again listed with limited participation. With Trey Flowers, it seems like when he's limited, he usually does play. But we would like to see Trey Flowers go out there and just kind of like have a dominating game. You have an immobile quarterback this week. The offensive line's a little bit like this. It's a solid offensive line. It's not bad, but it's not great either. It would be nice to see him just dominate a game. I mean, you get paid a lot of money. And I'm not saying he's a bad player. He just getting paid so much. You want those dominant games from him. So maybe this weekend, can we speak that into existence? This is where the bad news sort of sets in, though. Jamaal Williams with no participation once again today, dealing with a thigh injury. Deuce Staley did talk a little bit about Jamaal Williams. He basically called Jamaal a workhorse, right? And he's going out there, he's working, he's doing everything he can to get back to participation for the Lions. Kind of like what we said yesterday when Dan Campbell talked about him last time. He was dealing with an injury heading into the bye week. Well, he still has no participation today. And Deuce Staley did talk about both those running backs, the confidence that they have. Godwin. Actually, I think Anthony Lindell's talked about Godwin and Jermar Jefferson to put those guys out there. They have confidence in both of those players going forward. No participation today, which is not a good update. We'll see where he's at Friday, because I do believe he practiced Friday. He could definitely play on Sunday. But anyways, we'll see where that goes. But it's definitely concerning considering that we had a bye week as well. AJ Parker, though, great news to wrap it up. He had full participation once again today. So he and Taylor Decker look like they could be back. They could be back. So AJ Parker, he only missed one game this season. It was the game before the bye week, and he's back with back-to-back full participation. Decker hasn't played this season. He could make a debut this weekend. There's a lot of excitement there. There is a lot of excitement. Now, I do have a lot of notes from these coordinators after we go through the Steelers side of the injury report. At the top, we have a couple of new additions to this list, and that's likely because yesterday was just a walkthrough for them because they played on Monday. So because of that, they have a couple of new additions to this list because they went back to really practicing today. And the first one is a big one. It's Najee Harris with a foot injury. There has been speculation that these first two guys, Kendrick Green and Najee Harris, both dealt with an injury in practice, but they can't confirm that. They should know more by Friday, but we can't confirm that from the outside looking in because yesterday was just a walkthrough. So it could have just been that they weren't listed yesterday, but today when they really practiced, it was like, okay, that's a little sore, we're going to put him as limited. Or it could have been he dealt with something during practice. We're not sure on that front, but we know that he was limited. Najee Harris is their workhorse. He's the bell cow running back. The guy's got 150 carries. And when you look at who's behind them with Kalen, Benny Snell, even Anthony McFarland Jr. hasn't had that many touches. I mean, there's just a very small amount of carries between those three guys. For example, Snell only has 10 carries a season for 27 yards. All right, Kalen has 7 carries a season. You look at McFarland, he has 1 carry this season. So really, it's just been Najee has been the guy, right? 150 carries, he's already got 40 receptions. He's been the guy. And if you watch the Steelers, they go to him a ton. Even our coaches brought it up. He knows where the check down is. So not having Najee would be huge, but it's limited. So I don't want to overreact to this one. I think he'll probably still play, but it's just something to keep an eye on for sure. Kendrick Green is their starting center. He is a rookie this season out of Illinois, drafted in the 3rd round. I know there was a lot of projection for him going a little bit later than that. Picked up in the 3rd round. He's been pretty solid this season from what I can gather. He's only allowed 1 sack from the center position. That's a tough role for a rookie to step into. He's played guard, center back in college. He actually had 33, I believe, consecutive starts between the 2 spots. But he's dealing with something here, a hamstring injury. And this is not new for him. He's dealt with a hammy a couple of times throughout the season, but he hasn't missed a game because of the hamstring. So if you want a positive spin to it, there's your positive spin for Kendrick Green. Their backup center played 4 games last season, 2020. So they have a guy with some experience behind him. Let's get to the guys we saw yesterday. First off, Ben Roethlisberger. Again, no participation today. Now, yesterday it was kind of like, well, it's a walkthrough, so he doesn't really need to practice. That's been a thing that we've seen from Ben Roethlisberger. But today, to have no participation again, looks like a big deal because, like, hold up, back-to-back days of not participating, that's concerning. That's very concerning. Shoulder, pectoral, I believe it's his right shoulder. This is kind of a normal thing for Ben Roethlisberger to get 3 days off between games. And because of this quick turnaround of Monday to Sunday, that 3 days would be Friday he returns to practice. So a lot of speculation believes he's going to be in full participation tomorrow and he's going to play. I would probably lean on the side of believing that. He met with the media yesterday, and like we said, usually when that happens, the guy plays that weekend. And I know he did not participate today, but because of his age, because of his familiarity with this team, I don't think he needed to practice that much. So I'm going to bet on the fact that we see Ben Roethlisberger and he will play on Sunday. But either way, it's definitely a name to keep an eye on because behind him they got Mason Rudolph, who only played one game last season. That game they lost. He has not played so far this season. We know about Mason Rudolph, all right? But Ben Roethlisberger, no participation once again today. Continuing, here's a big one, Chase Claypool. We got the update yesterday. It's not season ending, but it is week to week. And their offensive coordinator talked about Chase Claypool, just the impact that he has, the PIs that he draws, the attention that he brings, and not having it, of course, it's next man up mentality. Out there on the final drive against the Bears last week, and as you can see with this toe, the MRI that he had, again, it's not season ending, no participation. It's leaning more and more towards likely that he won't play. So again, we're going to see Deontay Johnson. We're going to see James Washington likely as the top 2 this week, which is a big loss because they don't have Juju Smith-Schuster either. But then we could see some of these younger guys like your Cody Whites, the guy at 6'3" out of Michigan State. We have Ray Berry McLeod. He has 8 receptions this season, so those guys will probably get more involved. Anthony Miller on the practice squad if you want to bring him up. But they also do utilize their tight ends. And, well, speaking of tight ends, let's skip to the bottom real quick. Eric Ebron, full participation today. He went from limited yesterday, full today for Eric Ebron. It looks like he may be back and playing against the Lions this weekend. So that should be entertaining to say the least. But Eric Ebron, if he's there, they could probably see a bigger role of him. Eric Ebron, pair that with the rookie Pat. Probably see more of those guys this weekend with their receivers, their top 2 possibly out this weekend. Robert, the linebacker, dealing with his ankle injury, was downgraded to limited participation. The backup interior linebacker for the Steelers yesterday, they put him as full. Today, limited. Again, it's probably not a big deal, but I thought I'd point it out. Isaiah Buggs, the nose tackle, 295 pounds, continues with full participation, so that's good there. And then Cameron Hayward. All right, the big name defensive line for the Steelers defense limited today. Again, that's a downgrade from yesterday where they listed him at full participation. Speaking of defensive ends, I should mention that the Steelers did sign Jacob to their practice squad, outside linebacker / defensive end. I'm not great at saying his last name, so I'm not going to really try it. But as you guys can see, he was with the Atlanta Falcons 2018 when he was picked up as an undrafted free agent. He has 3 career sacks there. In 2020, he was 6th in the NFL, and fumble recoveries was 3. I think he also has 2 forced fumbles as well. I know they picked up Derek Tuska. They picked up Taco Charlton, another outside linebacker to that mix that actually went from defensive tackle to outside linebacker. So I thought I'd just point it out. I don't think that means that Hayward's not playing, but I thought I'd point it out. By the way, they did put a picture of Deontay Johnson up on their Twitter, so maybe that's like, okay, we know Claypool ain't going, so like we gonna post him like flexing. I don't know. I'm gonna go to a couple of notes that I have from our coordinators today. I actually took a lot of notes, so I may not go through all these, but I got a lot because I love listening to our coordinators. First off, let's start with the offense side of the ball. Let's start with Anthony Lynn. This has been a place where a lot of attention has been brought because Dan Campbell said he wants to get more involved here. They asked Anthony Lynn if he's stepping on his toes at all, and he's like, look, this is his team. My job is a game plan. His team. He does what he wants to do. So, of course, the offense first, Josh Reynolds, the receiver the Lions claimed yesterday. It was asked if he could possibly play this weekend, and at the time they asked Anthony Lynn, and we may know more as the week goes on, he's like, look, I just met the guy, okay? He just got here. But he's like, he was spending earlier in the day with Jared Goff, so apparently those two were together earlier in the day. We know the connections there, and like I said in that film video, I'm like, man, I could tell there's a trust factor there, and Goff likes him, as he told us the day of them claiming him before they claimed him, but they didn't rule out the fact that he couldn't play this weekend. I don't necessarily know if I could say that I think he'll play this weekend because today's Thursday, the first day he's getting there. Friday, it's not a lot of time to get, involved in this offense. At the most, I would say that maybe he could be out there for certain packages. If there's certain plays that he can get down, it's like, okay, I know what I got to do. And then there's just certain times you could probably sub him in. But to be a full-time top receiver, I don't see that being the case this weekend whatsoever. But I can't rule out the fact that he could be possibly active this week. I mean, there's a chance he could be active, and maybe on certain packages, they get him out there and they get him involved. Just depends on, I guess, what they see from him. But he is healthy. Anthony Lynn likes glazed donuts. So if you want to send Anthony Lynn donuts, send him glazed, okay? Comment down below your favorite type of donut. I'm not really a big donut guy. Like, I didn't like them. I didn't used to like them. I just don't get donuts a lot. Like, there's a Dunkin' Donuts that's new here. I haven't been there. Like, I don't get donuts. It's just not normal, for me to go buy a donut. Like, I don't know. If there's the kind of donut I had to get, I don't know. I tried Old Fashioned. I thought it'd be better than it looked, and it wasn't, for me at least. So I'm like, I don't know. I don't like the feeling inside. I'll just leave it there. Anyways, glazed I think is solid. Glazed is solid, but it messes up. It's just a mess.
The Spanish word of the day is wheelchair. There's only one donut left, so wheelchair.
I thought Taylor looked good yesterday because, again, this was before the practice. He said, I thought Taylor looked good yesterday. A little aggressive to say that he'll play all 100% of the snaps on this weekend's game. So that took me back a little bit. I'm like, hold up. What do you mean? What do you mean there? But anyways, he did say, I felt like he looked good yesterday. And he said, we're going to put more work for him today, even though it was listed as full participation. So I don't completely know what's going on. But it's good news that he was full participation back-to-back days. But he did say this, the best tackles in the game, saying that he would have a huge impact to have him. Of course, the idea of having him in pass protection, you could possibly get some more shots down the field because you have better protection. But he also said even run blocking, like he's just as good as a run blocker, is what Anthony Lynn said. So having him and Sewell, two guys that can move people, and that's one big thing that I note about this, because pass protection sticks out, but also run blocking. I didn't think Matt Nelson gave us a great push on that tackle spot, and I feel like that could give us much more, but putting Sewell at the right tackle, he moves guys, and he can get to the second level. So there could be better run blocking as well from the tackle positions, allow them to do certain things to their sides if he can play this weekend. So we'll just kind of keep an eye on it. I don't want to get too caught up in it because you just don't know until we see it. But I'm hoping he plays. Campbell is not lying. He has definitely been more involved, but he said, look, he's called plays this season. I think the first thing that comes to my mind is like when we're no huddling and we're snapping and he's like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have done that. Yeah, those things come to mind. So I'm sure he has called a few things, probably situational. He's like, let's go with this. So he's like, look, he's called plays. He's got the offensive background. He said, when I was head coach, because Anthony Lynn was head coach for the Chargers, he had the offense coordinator background. He's like, I did it too. In meetings, game planning this weekend and just kind of what he wants to see out of this offense going forward. So if anything, we should at least see things mixed up a little bit this going forward. We go to Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn always likes to start with the positives, the defense coordinator, and he said the positive was we had a bye week. Yeah, that's pretty much all you could take away from it. I mean, look, if we had to hear from Aaron Glenn on Thursday after Sunday's game, I don't know what he would have said. I'm actually curious to see what he would have said, but
now you can't speak English.
Opportunity to look at all 8 games, because he said when you're kind of in the flow of week by week, you're focused around the next opponent. You don't always know exactly what the issue is. You may think it's something, and it turns out when you watch it back, you're like, well, actually, that's the problem. The thing that he specifically brought up, though, there was actually a couple things here. First thing he brought up was about run defense. He said he's noticed that in run defense, we've actually been better in split coverage, stopping the run, than we have with single high safety, which is weird because usually when you go one high safety or sliding a safety in the box, you're better at stopping the run. Maybe that's because the defense knows that you're playing to stop the run. I don't know there if it's exactly, but he said when split coverage, we're allowing 2.8 yards per carry. That's good. I can tell you that's good. So he said we may run more of that because usually our split coverage is to help us, obviously in pass coverage, right? You start with 2 safeties deep, you can slide one in the box post snap. We talked about this all in the offseason, but so we've actually been better stopping the run. We've had our 2 safeties deep. So we may see more of that going forward. Another thing he focused on was red zone, because offensively and defensively, you got to be better. Anthony Lynn said with the offense, turnovers have been an issue, of course, and they got to figure out a way to punch it in. I think we got to get more to the red zone now because we've kind of stopped getting to the red zone recently. Early in the season, it was turnovers were a killer, and then penalties, things like that. It was just all a mess. And Deuce Staley said, look, I think everything can be better when you look at the red zone situations. He's focused on his running backs, like a guy can make 2 guys miss, take a couple of guys on. Yeah, I mean, he's the running back coach, so he should be saying that. And Deuce Staley, I love it because just because the running back makes a guy miss, he doesn't get hype. We could hear the guy yelling on the sideline, like, that's your job. That's what you're supposed to do. You can hear him yelling on the sideline. Make that dude miss. What are you doing? You got tackled by the first guy. Your job is to make the first guy miss as the running back. Defensive side, Aaron Glenn said, look, in the red zone, we've been pretty good until they get into about the 5-yard line. 14 of their 25 touchdowns that they've allowed, he said, have been within the 5-yard line to the 1. All right, so there he said we got to clean it up. And a lot of that is alignments because of youth, just lining up not the right way. And we can look at it on film. Guys can say, oh, I see what's going on. The play that hops into my mind right away is Philly last week. Don't know if it was exactly an alignment issue, but just the kind of walk-in touchdown that Philly had when Alex Anzalone kind of just walked through the hole and he kind of just walked into the end zone. But he said that's what it is for us, is the alignment issues, not being able to line up right. He said this ain't college. Teams are moving, they're motioning, they're doing things to out-leverage you to get an advantage, and we have to make sure we're lined up right. A lot of that is because we're so young and we're youthful that we have to learn those, and that's why the bye weeks had a good time. That defense, they buried the game film, I guess, of the first 8 weeks this season. They just buried it after they got to watch it, and they all kind of stepped on it. They're just moving on. It's like it's a whole new season. Every mistake, all the arguments, everything that we did wrong is done. It's done with it. We moving forward. It's a whole new season. So I do like that mindset and that perspective going forward. Learn from it, but at the same time move on, because we can't live in the past. It happened. It's bad. Let's move on. Let's go forward. There was good and there was bad. There was a lot of more bad. So let's move on. If you were winning, you'd want to do the same thing. Move on. If you live in the past, we're going to start losing games. All right. It's week by week. And even Aaron Glenn said that. He said, look, at Cincinnati, I mean, they were the best thing since sliced bread once they beat us, but then you look at what's happened recently, which is lost to the Jets and blown out by the Browns, and that was just an ugly game overall. I was like, what the heck? I watched that game. I was like, dang, dude. What are the Bengals? Did they fumble it? I mean, they threw a pick six, and they're moving this all the way down the field. They throw a pick six to Ward. It's like, what the heck are the Bengals doing? So, like Mike Thomas said, this is not an FCS team that we're playing this week, and we ain't playing no FCS team. This ain't college. Done a good job outside of that. We've 22 of our 25 touchdowns have happened within 26 yards of the goal line, which I guess kind of makes sense. But he's like, so we've done a good job not giving up touchdowns on the big explosives outside of that. It's just once they get inside the 5, we have to make sure we're lined up correctly. That's because we're young, to stop it. So maybe we'll see improvements there, and that would be big time. We need that. We need to get some stops and holds and field goals, because teams do it to us, so it'd be great to hold some field goals. 2 players that he's focused on for this game are, of course, Najee Harris, who showed up on the injury report today. Makes sense because he's their bell cow. He does everything. Check downs or run the football. Who's averaging 3.6 yards a carry this season. Not great, but we know the talent he is. It takes multiple guys to bring him down. I hope the Lions, when they hit him this week, everybody jumps on that, because he said you got to out-physical them, but man, you got to get on that pile. If you let one guy try to bring this guy down, you're not bringing him down. Najee is just a workhorse, man. Throw the numbers out the window, because you got to be swarming this guy. So Najee Harris, and he also brought up Pat, the tight end, because we all saw this in the preseason when I think Pat actually went to work. Remember, we played this team in preseason. They played our starters, we played our backups, but they gave us problems. They give us big problems. I don't know if you go back to watch that, it's like, oh, here's the film. Like, I don't think you do because it's preseason, but remember, they scored. They gave us some problems defensively because we didn't get off the field on 3rd down, and they punched it in on the red zone. Those are the main takeaways that I took from hearing our coordinators today. I love listening to the coordinators. I always feel like they got some good notes there, and that's really what I got for this injury report video. We'll be back tonight for Last Second Dose. If you guys want to, in the community right now as you're watching this, there is a little place where you guys can comment some questions, some thoughts, ideas, anything you want me and Rad to discuss on tonight's show. So put it in there. That way we see it. Even if you can't make the show, you can go back and watch it, and we'll probably bring up your topic. So if you guys want to put that in the community section, leave it there for sure. We'll check it out. But yeah, until then, let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.